Hello everyone and welcome to my The Bold Fans channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Ridge Forrester remained in the stillness of his office at Forrester Creations long after the last employee had left for the evening. The city lights of Los Angeles twinkled beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, but he barely saw them. In his hand was a single sheet of paper with the results of a DNA test he had never thought to order. The words on the page appeared to pulse under the warm overhead illumination. The biological father is Ridge Forrester. Darcy Dillon is a biological mother. Melissa Dillon is a child. He read it again, then the third time. The figures, markers, and probability percentages were all consistent with clinical certainty. 99.9%. There was no place for uncertainty or the comfy denials that he had built his existence on. Dillon, the young woman who had entered their world as Hayes' preschool teacher, the one who had mistakenly killed Luna, and the one Will Spencer had taken under his wing, was his daughter. His and Darcy's. The name Darcy evoked something remote and half-forgotten. Years ago, before the never-ending round of marriages and divorces, before Brooke and Taylor became the twin poles of his existence, he had a brief, intense relationship. Darcy previously worked as a freelance textile consultant for a brief cooperation between Forrester and a European design firm. She had been bright and independent, with a sarcastic sense of humor that sliced through the pretense of the fashion industry. They had spent 3 weeks together on a Paris trip, stolen nights at a hotel overlooking the Seine, long discussions about fabric and tradition, and the significance of family names. Then she disappeared. A polite email claiming personal reasons, and a returned call that remained unanswered. Ridge had moved on like he usually did, figuring that the spark they shared had just died out. He had no idea she was pregnant. The office door opened with no knock. Brooke went inside, her expression already indicating tension in his position. "You have been in here for hours. What is it?" Ridge held out the paper. She took it, scanned the lines, and the color left her face. Dillon is ours. Mine," he replied quietly. "And Darcy's." Brooke slumped onto the chair opposite from his desk. For a long time, neither of them talked. The air felt thicker, as if it had been charged with a revelation that would rewrite history. Brooke had always known Ridge had secrets, affairs, rash decisions, the rare child whose parentage confused everything, but this one was different. Dillon had been staying with them for some months. She'd sat at their tables, worked in their offices, and confided in their kids. And all along she had been blood. "Does she know?" Brooke inquired at last. "Not yet. I only received the findings an hour ago." Steffi pushed for the test after some of Dillon's medical records were discovered during the Luna probe. Something about an uncommon blood marker that matched old Forrester records. "I did not believe it. I requested the confirmation myself." Brooke leaned across the desk to conceal his hand. "You need to inform her. And you have to inform the others. RJ, Thomas, and Steffi deserve to know they have another sister." Ridge nodded, but the movement felt artificial. How would a guy tell a young woman that the father she had never met was the man whose firm she now worked for? How did he explain the years of absence when he had no idea she existed? The next morning, he planned to meet Dillon at the beach home. Will and Electra were outside, giving them privacy. Dillon opened the door with a cautious expression, as she often did when unexpected people arrived. She had gained confidence since finding stability, but the shadow of Luna's death hung over her. Ridge noticed it in the way she carried herself, her shoulders slightly stooped, as if bracing for another hit. "Mr. Forrester," she said. "Is everything okay at the office?" "Call me Ridge," he replied, walking inside. "And no, not everything." They sat on low couches overlooking the water. The waves rolled in with calm indifference. Ridge set the DNA results on the coffee table between them and waited while she read. He carefully observed her expression, the first perplexity, the widening of her eyes, and the way her fingers squeezed on the edges of the page until her knuckles whitened. "This can't be right," she said. "It is. I had it confirmed twice." Dylan peered up at him, scanning his features for her own reflection. Darcy is my mom. She never revealed who my father was. She said that he was from a brief relationship and did not know, and that it was better that way. She reared me on her own. We moved a lot. She did design works under many identities. Ridge believed she was sheltering him from something. She was protecting me from knowing, he explained. The words tasted bitter. Or defending herself. I'm not sure which. I had no idea she was pregnant. If I had. If you had what? Dylan's voice became sharper. You would have taken me into this environment of constant drama and power struggles. Would you have made me another Forrester pawn? Ridge took the anger without flinching. He'd earned it. I would have attempted to become a father. I am not claiming that I would have done it flawlessly. I have failed more than once with the children I have raised. But I would have known you existed. Silence fell between them. Sighed a seabird cried. Dylan stood and walked toward the window, her back to him. My mother is coming to Los Angeles next week. She called last night. She stated that there were things she needed to tell me in person. I suppose this is one of them. Dylan turned around to speak with her as well. Why? So you may accuse her of hiding your daughter from you. She did what she felt was best. We didn't have any money. We didn't have connections. She kept me secure. From what? From me. From becoming a part of something that eats people whole. Dylan's eyes shone. I've witnessed what this family does to each other. The betrayals, the secrets, the way love and ambition get entwined until no one can tell the difference. Maybe she rescued me from that. Ridge walked carefully across the room, pausing a few feet away. You are already a part of it, Dylan. Whether you wish to be or not. You work at Forrester. You are close to Will and Electra. You have been sucked into the orbit. The only difference is that you now understand why the draw was so strong. She chuckled briefly, a sad sound. Is this supposed to make me feel better? That destiny, DNA, or whatever you call it, brought me here. No. It's intended to let you realize that you belong somewhere. Dylan's composure cracked. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She wiped them away angrily. I'm not sure how to be a Forrester. I'm not sure how to consider Steffi, Thomas, and RJ family. I'm not sure how to look at you and call you Dad. You don't have to call me anything yet, Ridge answered softly. Know the truth. The rest can be worked out one day at a time. Later that afternoon, Ridge headed to the airport to catch Darcy's flight. He recognized her the instant she entered the arrivals hall. Time had softened the harsh edges of youth, but the clever eyes and quiet strength persisted. She saw him, came to a halt, and for a long time they just stared at each other across the packed terminal. You know, she said when they finally met face to face. I know. They discovered a quiet area of a cafe near the luggage claim. Darcy ordered tea, which she did not drink. I never planned to keep her from you forever, she said. Initially I was terrified. You were Ridge Forrester. Your life was public, difficult, and already full of individuals who wanted bits of you. I was a freelance designer without a safety net. I resolved to raise her myself and tell her the truth when she was older. Then years passed. The longer I waited, the tougher it got. She asked queries. I provided partial responses. Ridge listened without interruption until the fragmented replies were the only story he could tell. When she finished, he said, I understand your fear. I don't understand why the stillness lasted so long. Would you have been ready then? Darcy inquired. Are you really ready? Or would Dylan have been another piece in the continuing chess match between you, Brooke, Taylor, and whatever else was vying for your heart that year? The question landed hard because it contained truth. Ridge was not always the man his children needed. He had chosen passion over presence more than he cared to remember. I would have tried, he replied. That's all any of us can do. Darcy nodded slowly. She is powerful, Ridge. Stronger than I was at her age. She is, nevertheless, weak in ways that she effectively conceals. The Luna situation almost broke her. If we aren't careful, finding out about you could finish the job. Together. That evening, the three of them returned to the beach home. Dylan sat between her mother and the man who was later confirmed to be her father. Dylan's childhood memories, explanations of the Paris affair, and timid questions about half-siblings she had never met all carried the conversation along in stops and turns. Brooke arrived later and provided quiet support. Steffi followed, her expression perfectly bland until she gazed at Dylan, at which point something softer appeared. "So we're sisters," Steffi explained. This was not a question. Dylan gave a tiny nod. "Apparently." Steffi gave her a long look. "You've already shown that you can survive in this family. The rest is simply details." Thomas arrived next, followed by RJ. The living room was packed with the awkward, electrifying energy of a growing family in real time. Questions flew. Some were practical, such as medical history, mutual allergies, and birthday and holiday plans. Others went further, circling the wound of absence. Dylan provided what she could. When she couldn't, Darcy filled in the blanks. Ridge watched everything unfold with a mix of wonder and horror. Wonder because a portion of himself that he had no idea was missing had suddenly appeared, entire and breathing. Dread because the Forrester name carried weight, and Dylan's shoulders bore that weight whether she wanted it or not. As the night progressed, folks began to retreat to their own homes. Will returned and hovered protectively close Dylan, sensing the seismic shift even though he didn't yet understand its full extent. Electra expressed silent solidarity. When just Ridge, Darcy, and Dylan remained, the ocean wind cooled and the discussion slowed. "I don't expect you to forgive me overnight," Ridge told Dylan. "Or ever if that's all you need. But I want to get to know you. Not as CEO of the company where you work." Dylan stared from him to her mother, then back. The struggle in her eyes was obvious. Part of her wanted to reject the entire discovery, to walk away and restore the simpler persona she had cultivated for so long. Another part, the one that had always felt the absence, leaned toward the open door he was presenting. "I need time," she answered finally. "It's time to process. It's time to consider what this means for me. For us," Ridge replied. "Take all the time you need. I'll be there." Darcy grasped for her daughter's hand. "We both will." After they departed, Ridge stayed alone on the beach house's deck, observing the black water. The DNA findings remained in his pocket, compressed into a crisp rectangle. He didn't need the paper anymore. The knowledge resided in his chest, weighty and persistent. He had a daughter, Dylan. She had grown up without him, influenced by her mother's steely independence and the silent anguish of unresolved questions. Now those questions had answers, and they were already altering everything. In the ensuing weeks, the news would spread widely. The press would soon detect the fragrance. Old enemies would seek methods to capitalize on the disclosure. Brooke would deal with the complex emotions of welcome another of Ridge's children into the family. Taylor would digest it through her own relationship with him. The younger generation would adjust to a new sister, whose arrival altered the family tree. But for the time being, in the calm following the first storm of reality, Ridge allowed himself a single secret moment of something near to thanks. Life had given him another chance that he didn't deserve. The question of whether he could be the parent Dylan needed remained open. The only certainty was that he planned to try. He drove home under a sky full of stars that appeared exactly like they did the night he first met Darcy in Paris. The city hummed around him, oblivious to the personal earthquakes that transformed lives. Somewhere in a beach home, a young woman was staring at the same stars, unsure of who she was now that the missing part of her tale had a name and face. Ridge Forrester had been startled several times throughout his childhood. This time the stun went deeper. It went beyond ego and into the spaces where legacy, regret, and hope intersected. He has a daughter. Her name was Dylan. Nothing would ever be the same again. Ridge Forrester stood transfixed in the middle of Forrester Creations' CEO office, the late afternoon light slanting through the large windows, highlighting the sharp lines on his face. The folder in his hands seemed heavier than any design sketch or financial report he had ever handled. His heartbeat thumped in his ears. On the desk in front of him was a single sheet of paper, a printout of a DNA report delivered less than an hour earlier by private courier. The statistics and percentages were confused for a second before becoming brutally clear. The probability of paternity is 99.97%. Dylan. The name reverberated through him like a strike against glass. He slid himself onto the leather chair, where he had signed papers that built empires and ended marriages. His memory raced back throughout the years he had carefully archived. Darcy. A whirlwind of a woman he had known in another life. Before Brooke, before the never-ending cycle of Forrester drama had settled into its predictable rhythm. They had met at a design conference in Milan. They were both young, hungry, and carefree with their nights. The affair had been intense and fleeting. When Darcy disappeared from Ridge's life, he felt it was the natural end of something that was never meant to last. He had never realized she was pregnant. She had never informed him. Till now. The door opened without any knock. Steffi walked in, her face already tense with concern. She took one look at her father's face before closing the door behind her. Dad. What is wrong? Ridge didn't respond quickly. He slid the paper across the desk. Steffi snatched it up, looked at the results, and her eyes widened. Dylan. She whispered. Our Dylan. Who recently began at the design studio last month. Ridge nodded once. I'm Darcy's son. My son, Steffi said, sinking onto the chair opposite him. How is this possible? You never mentioned. Because I didn't know, Ridge responded, his voice low and harsh. Darcy never informed me. She reared him on her own. Or so the letter claims. He pointed to the accompanying message that had arrived with the results. Darcy's handwriting remained familiar after all these years. Exquisite, decisive, and little impatient. She'd written that she was dying. Cancer in stage 4. She only had weeks left. She wanted Dylan to know the truth before she left. And she wanted Ridge to know, too. She had included an old conference badge photo of the two of them in Milan, smiling over glasses of wine, as if to demonstrate that the past was real. Ridge ordered the DNA test on the same day the letter arrived. Dylan had accepted without understanding the exact reason, only that Ridge wanted to settle up a family matter. The young man was intrigued, even charmed, and provided the sample without hesitation. The truth sat between them like a live wire. Steffi placed the paper carefully. Did you tell him? Not yet. Are you planning to? Ridge glanced at the skyline beyond the glass. Los Angeles sprawled out in the late light, sparkling yet uninterested. I do not know how. How do you approach a 25-year-old man who is just starting to get his footing here and say, "Surprise, I'm your father"? Steffi remained silent for a long time. He's okay, Dad. Very good. His recent sketches are bold. They have the same instinct you mentioned in the past. Before everything became so complicated. Ridge's throat clenched. He'd observed it too. Dylan stood at the drafting table, head tilted and pencil moving with quiet confidence. He urged, respectfully but firmly, for cleaner lines and stronger silhouettes. Ridge had experienced a peculiar, unnameable draw toward the young designer in recent weeks. He chalked it up to professional courtesy. Now the pull had a name and a lineage. That evening Ridge stayed late. The workplace emptied around him. He drank a glass of scotch he didn't drink and peered at the DNA results until the numbers stopped making sense. Darcy's giggle in a hotel suite overlooking the Duomo, the way she drew on the backs of napkins while they chatted about fabric and ambition. Memories came flooding back. She had been fiercely independent. Ridge could understand why she could have kept Dylan's secret if she had decided to raise him alone. But comprehending didn't alleviate the sudden hollow ache in his chest. The next morning he summoned Dylan to the office. Dylan Carter, now Dylan Forrester, albeit the name change was still unofficial, walked in with a certain confidence of someone who had earned his place through aptitude rather than pedigree. Ridge was tall, dark-haired, and had the same powerful jaw he saw in the mirror each morning. The likeness struck Ridge like a physical punch. How had he not noticed it sooner? "You want to see me, Mr. Forrester?" "Ridge," he corrected immediately, then regretted his soft tone. "Sit down, Dylan." The young man sat with a look of wonder on his face. Ridge did not spend time with a preface. He passed the DNA results across the desk and watched Dylan's gaze wander over the page. The younger man's face lost color. For several seconds, the only sound was the distant hum of the air conditioning system. "Is this real?" Dylan eventually asked. "Yes." Dylan's hands tightened around the paper's edges. "My mother never said anything. She always told me that my father was someone she met once and would never see again. Someone who does not want to become involved." "I never knew you existed," Ridge remarked gently. "If I had, things would have been different." Dylan looked up. His eyes were still filled with surprised, searching confusion, rather than fury. "Why now? Why inform me now?" Ridge talked about Darcy's letter, cancer, and the final request. Dylan's face crumbled briefly before he shut it down again. He had always been secretive about his mother, and Ridge now knew why. Darcy had always been the focus of his existence, the only parent he had known. Knowing she had kept this secret, and that she was dying, was a double blow. "I need time," Dylan answered finally. His voice remained steady, but his knuckles were white. "I can't just process this in one conversation." "Take all the time you need," Ridge replied. "I'm not going anywhere."